class, and we'll finish this today. And Manon and I were talking about the upcoming schedule. Manon, do you want to fill everybody in on what we think we'll do?
Sure. Yeah. So I want to thank everybody for kind of being a guinea pig with us for this first time through this study group. Just creating the material for chapters 9 and 10. Both of those are pretty short, so instead of doing 2 separate weeks, we're going to combine those into a single week that Angela will present next week. And then we'll take a week off, which is actually really nice because it's right around spring break. So we'll have that a week off, and then we'll come back and finish out our final 2 chapters with Kalisha and Katie presenting 11 and 12. So.
And next year, or the next time we do the study group, is everybody up for keeping it during, the time frame that we currently have? No, if you'll be joining us for the study group, what's your opinion, Kalisha?
I'm okay with the time. I'm just still recovering from shock that Kitty and I will be running the next 2.
No, there's Kalisha Puckett.
Oh, I'm sorry.
And
I heard.
Kalisha, I know, look how close it is to your name.
I was like, someone
Felicia.
responded for me.
Kalisha.
Sorry,
and
what?
So, the next study group, are you gonna be a participant or teacher? Does the time frame work?
I'm not till April 7th.
Right, but the next study group that we'll probably have in the fall.
Oh, I don't know. I guess it all depends on how good of a teacher you guys think I am. So let's just go with that.
Gotcha.
You guys can either boo me or yay me, and if it goes well, then I'll do it again.
I gotta say, none of us are professional teachers, except Melissa.
Except Melissa.
I definitely am not, and I get a lot of stage fright. So if you guys hear my voice shaking that day, you'll know why.
Hey, yeah, no worries. So Felicia, Kalisha, meet Felicia. Felicia works in our New York office.
Oh, awesome.
And yeah, and
Hi.
Katie Thorne, they are both in New York for our company.
Wow, very cool.
Hi.
Yeah. Do we even have pictures of everybody? Everybody's got their webcam. Anyway, ladies, thanks for joining us. So today it's an incredibly interesting topic. Artificial intelligence, it's becoming more and more prevalent in specifically our market space for applicant tracking software, etc. Currently, we use a software that has bots in our welcome page, and it's a customer, what's it called, Manon? That little thing that
the
chat. Yep.
Yeah.
So the chat bot. So that can be pre-programmed with responses. So if you're ever trying to get technical assistance on many things from Microsoft, if they have the chat bot in the bottom, the chat box in the bottom, it's usually powered by a bot, pre-programmed responses to the questions you ask. And as you look into the future and regarding payroll, human resources, etc., more and more processes are being automated, which is really fascinating, especially when large companies have like applicant tracking software and it's going and reading resumes, looking for keywords before the candidates ever get interviewed. All right. So there's many advantages to different types of payroll systems. We are a payroll service provider. You can get a payroll system, Sage, QuickBooks, they can be desktop. The advantages of having a payroll service provider, leasing in essence the software from somebody like us, is we do all the updates, it's in the cloud, it's backed up. We do the training, it's got low fixed cost versus purchasing a big payroll system package that then you're responsible for the updates from the company, providing the network, the computer system, the people to operate the system, the IT. So there's advantages and disadvantages to both. So application software, so ours is an application software. We have a license from a company and we are a reseller of that software, and we supply all the customer service and support and knowledge for our clients. And if you purchase software from, say, QuickBooks, you can get QuickBooks software support also. And there are many different softwares out on the market that are standalone products, and they're customized systems depending on the size of your company. Microsoft has an ERP system, and so does Oracle, depending on the size of your company and the programming needs that you might need. All the following types of records can be integrated into payroll except
I don't know
purchasing.
why I did this with all of the pop quizzes and just gave the
I don't know.
answer. Sorry about that.
It's great. Great, Manon. I gotta say, human resource software, payroll software has come leaps and bounds in the last 5 years. And there's a lot of legacy software that's still around that has human resources in one module, payroll in another, and benefits in another. But technology is changing quickly in this market space. So how do you select a payroll system? And really, it kind of depends on the size of your company and what you need it to interface with. There's payroll, human resource, benefits, accounting, taxes, budget finance, information technology, management, and operations. And one package that does all things probably doesn't do all things well. So many times people will get like an HRIS system like ours that has payroll, human resources, and benefits in it, and then we pay the taxes, and then have a different system that does their budgeting and their taxes and their finance. So when you're in the market for the system, for a new system, if you're a large like governmental organization, there's specific governmental software out there that will help with your budgeting and finance and taking care of, the fund accounting. And a lot of times a company, depending on the size, will do an RFP, a request for a proposal. And oftentimes they have companies assist them with RFPs, and it's an evaluation of what you currently have and what you need, what you're missing. And then you submit those proposals, you advertise it in your local paper, or there's a lot of RFP websites that you can post your RFP, and many organizations subscribe to those. I don't want to call them periodicals, but have a membership to organizations so that they can see all the typically governmental RFPs that come out, and then they have an opportunity to put together a presentation to see if their services match the RFP requests. So when you're evaluating a system, you have to understand what you need, and every company is different, and their complexity of 5-man payroll is very different from a 1,000-man payroll, and the things that you need. A 5-man payroll may not need employee self-serve, where the employees can go on and have a mobile app and direct deposit and ESS. Larger companies, that's probably an expectation that you've got a 1,000-man company and you walk in and there's kiosks where people can clock in, clock out. Maybe they clock in and clock out on their phone, etc. So different size companies have different needs, and there's software on the market for each size of company. So now we're going to dive right in to penalties and interest. So there are a lot of governmental agencies, the DOL, the state of Colorado, or new hire reporting, immigration. So the penalties, and I'm going to say there's probably only 1 or 2 questions on the exam, and Melissa, I think, probably took it most recently, and Felicia's going to be taking it. I think there's going to be 2 questions on penalties and interest, and one is the IRS, and I think it's the penalties on missing W-2s. I don't know if Melissa can chime in and say if that's what she remembers, but there's a lot of detail and numbers in these next slides. It's almost overwhelming. All the different types of penalties and interest that you can get from various companies. And oftentimes, if your company has a state unemployment audit, which I think the Colorado Department of Labor tries to touch every business every 7 years and does an audit. And if they find that you have misclassified workers or wages, oftentimes you'll get a follow-up audit from FUTA, because if you missed paying unemployment, oftentimes it triggers a FUTA audit also. Just an FYI there. So IRS penalties, typically what I see the most is failure to pay correctly or fill out the 941 correctly. Oftentimes when people are filling out the 941, the Schedule B, is they put the date on the Schedule B that they made the deposit versus the day the liability was due. And it's an automatic matching system with the IRS. They don't put actual human eyes on these returns until you're well into the penalty problem. When you make your 941 payments, they just sit in an account until the return is filed. Then they do a matching process, matching the payments you made to the Schedule B. And if there's any question, even sometimes pennies, it'll just kick out a notice from the IRS that you have a problem with your return. And the problems sometimes can stem depending on if you're manually doing your 941s. Oftentimes it's the calculation of FICA and Medicare. If you have pre-tax deductions or post-tax, you've got a Section 125 plan for health insurance, those types of things. And if you're hand doing your 941s, oftentimes there's accuracy related problems with the 941. And specifically when you get, if you're not balancing your 941 every quarter, and then you get to your W-3 and you file your W-3 with the Social Security Administration, and then they try, the Social Security Administration matches it back to the IRS 941s. And oftentimes, if you didn't correctly tie those out, you will get a notice from the Social Security Administration, end up amending a 941 or W-2s. So another penalty that I see oftentimes is employers who don't properly look at their look back period, and they may be a monthly tax filer, and they get a notice in November that their filing frequency changed to semi-weekly starting January 1. And they continue to pay monthly. And it's probably not until March that they get their first tax notice that the IRS has not received their semi-weekly payment. At that point in time, you're a quarter into it and your payments are going to be late for the entire quarter. In addition to the accuracy-related penalty for underpayment, if the underpayment of taxes is due to fraud, the IRS may assess an additional penalty of Doo-doo, doo-doo.
And I actually did this one right.
Yeah, look at that, 75%. So when you're doing the 941, you've got a line for rounding. You can have a safe harbor threshold of $25. But I have still seen, they'll send you a notice that your return was incorrect, but they, in the same letter, waive the penalties and interest. Missing some slides, those seem to go by really fast for another quiz. Okay. So let's take a look so we can answer the quiz at the failure to correct returns. $50, 110 and 280. Failure to furnish correct statements to your employees, again, 50, 110 and 280 with some maximums. And Manon and I were talking about the possibility of someone intentionally disregarding filing requirements and how that can impact. You just think, who in payroll is going to intentionally disregard information? So a company files 40 Form W-2s for 2020 with the Social Security Administration on July 31st. What is the maximum penalty the company could be assessed? So it's the 110 times 40. So penalties continue. So if your form is inaccurate, you've got an inaccuracy penalty, failure to make timely deposits. If they have sent you a letter letting you know that you have to use EFTPS and you don't use EFTPS, I don't know how you're going to make the payment unless you drive to the Treasury with some cash. And I think there's some business industries that actually have to do that. Back 10 years ago, there used to be a coupon called an 8809 coupon, I think was the name, where you actually took a check from your business account, took it to the bank to make your EFTPS payments. I think it's been 10 years since that. You were able to do that. Everybody had to sign up for EFTPS. One of the problems with EFTPS, if you're doing it on an individual company basis, is some penalties and interest occur because when you're making the selection in the EFTPS software, you don't select the right quarter or year when you're applying that payment. And again, it's all an automated system with the IRS. And then they have trouble matching up the payments with your return. So the government, the IRS, does an offset program where if in fact you overpaid your 941 taxes or 940 taxes, instead of refunding them to you, oftentimes, say if it's a corporation who has an 1120S, a corporate return for an S Corp, or 1120C for a C Corp, they will automatically take those payments from your 941, if it's an overpayment, and apply it to other tax returns due. So oftentimes companies that are in financial distress and happen to have a 941 overpayment, they will take those funds and move it to a different tax return. It can get super, super confusing and hard to figure out. If you've made the proper payments for your 941, but you completed your 941 incorrectly, say the Schedule B. So you've gone into EFTPS, you've sent in all your money on time, but your 941 return is incorrect. And so maybe for a short period of time, you had an overpayment, a mathematical error is an overpayment on your 941. And you thought, oh, I'm going to get a refund. And they can offset that 941 and take that money and use it for, you know, a corporate tax return. Untangling that mess can be, never done it, but I imagine it could be super fun. So as soon as you get a notice from the IRS, I find the IRS typically super friendly. But as practitioners, we get a special phone number where we get to call them and work through clients' notices, but always respond to that notice. Give the IRS a call, because again, those initial penalty notices are automated, right? A human hasn't looked at them. So if you're getting notices, figure out what the problem is, research it, order a transcript if you have an 8821 on file, or power of attorney 2848. We use form 8655, which is a reporting agent form, but use those legal forms to call the IRS. Get transcripts of the account so you can see what they have posted to your account versus what you have in paper. And sometimes it's magical how fast you can fix something with the IRS and give them a call. Maybe accidentally, when you were using the EFTPS software, you miscoded one of your 941 tax payments and you just need to move it from one quarter to the next. But if you don't address those penalties and interest, it could be a big snowball, and they will not fix themselves without your assistance. All the following reasons are reasonable cause when requesting IRS to waive information return penalties. So with reasonable cause, typically every company gets at least one oops out of jail for free penalty and interest. So if you get a penalty and interest because of mistake, a legitimate mistake that you made, but it was still a mistake, and there's penalties and interest, if you correct the mistake, the IRS will automatically give you a get out of jail for free card one time every 4 years. It used to be every 4 years, but just, you know, if you've got a couple $1,000s worth of penalties and interest to get a get out of jail free card just by calling the IRS, it's a pretty good thing. Wow. Holy smokes. That went really super fast.
So I guess any other test tips you can think of? I know Rebecca wrote in and said that she had to do that calculation on slide 45. The
Let's just
company
go back.
files, yeah. So she said that was definitely on her test.
Mm-hmm.
And you said, yeah, that maybe 2 to 5 questions-ish about IRS penalties. Looking back through all of my notes of all the test tips that you guys had said. Oh, the federal retention requirements. What is Department of Labor versus IRS? What do those retention requirements look like?
Yeah, that's on there.
And then I have a note on here about the Title VII FMLA, ADEA, and other anti-discrimination laws, to just know those acronyms.
That's true.
I think those are all of the test tips that I had written down. Were there any other ones that anybody can think of?
I think Rebecca's right on about that W-2, because they certainly don't get into this 3-tier I certainly did never see that on the test. Melissa, did you? It's a very nice office you have. Oh, she's on mute. She's not going to talk to us today. So Katie, from
Yes.
New York, do you remember any test questions from when you took the test? Any test advice on this section? I mean, I'm going to say there's not a ton.
I agree. I remember I did have one question about the W-2 penalties. It wasn't penalties on anything else. It really was just the W-2s. And it was within that first year or that first period of time where it was $50. So
Yeah,
I would say the big thing is understanding what they're asking. Like if we read some of the questions, they kind of try to trip you up a little bit. And it helps if you just kind of make sure you're understanding what the question is.
agreed. Yeah, but this isn't a huge section
No.
like some of the other ones. All right,
Yeah,
I'm going to look in chat.
I was just saying, I know Rebecca has said multiple times that she thought the majority of the test was calculations.
Mhm.
So some of these facts, I mean, sure, you definitely want to know them, but really have those calculations practiced.
Yeah, there's a couple of things if you happen to get a notice. You certainly call the IRS and discuss it with them, try to correct it if it's like a 941 adjustment. Every now and then, and this is the one thing I had from a client a few years ago, was the W-2s from the Social Security Administration did not match the 941s. And there might have been a 941X involved. I can't really remember all of the details. But anyway, working with the Social Security Administration and the IRS can be really difficult when you're trying to reconcile your 941s with your W-3. And the IRS, I'm going to say, is really pretty good about trying to get you assistance, because if it goes too far down to like notice a levy or lien, typically on that letter in the top right hand corner, there's an actual person's name and phone number. And you know, oftentimes it could be a person in the Grand Junction office working on your claim, but to me, they're humans, right? And if you actually get a person that's out of the main call center, it's gold, right? And their job really, I think, is to help you resolve the issue. And every case that I've ever had that's gone to a local office, and sometimes I've requested, hey, bring this case to the local office. And I've sent a letter saying, this needs to come to the local office. It needs to come to the local office. And it may not be the office here in Grand Junction, but it's somebody who's out of the call center campus, and they're experienced IRS professionals. 9 times out of 10, it takes 10 minutes on the phone, and they look at the documentation that you've been sending in to a call center person, and they go, I totally agree with you. I'm going to fix it. I'm going to send you a letter. And you're like, great, thank you. That's all I needed. So super easy. So don't get freaked out if any of you have ever had an IRS notice. My experience, if you can get to the right person, and that's beyond the call center person, it's super easy to get it fixed and penalties and interest abated, and they're good. Any other questions? We finished super early. Super early. And no class tomorrow. Yay. It's Friday.
Yeah. And like I was kind of saying before, I think in the fall session, we'll combine this week, like this chapter and the next 2 chapters all into 1 week, because they all seem like fairly short chapters. And if you look at the percentages of questions on the CPP. I mean, it's a small percentage that are on these
Right.
modules.
Agreed. Agreed. So is there any section that, who else taking the exam? Felicia in my office.
I'm taking it in
Charity?
the fall.
Charity, are you taking it? Mannon's taking, Mannon's going to be a professional. She knows this stuff better than anybody. She has done the slides.
In the fall.
Do you have questions for anybody on calculations?
Not yet.
I'm going to say the hardest calculation, and Melissa and I were talking about it today, is taking your gross wages, deducting your deferred comp plans, calculating your FICA Medicare, or Section 125 when you've got a deferred comp, Section 125 plans, and you're hitting that Social Security max, and you have to calculate Social Security on a portion of stuff. I think that's the most tricky. But if you could master that, life is golden forever. Forever. No, I mean, that's the trick to payroll, right? Is those calculations and intellectually understanding what is a pre-tax and post-tax deduction and what that means. What taxable fringe benefits are, like if you have group term life and you need to tax the employee, but they did never get money in their pocket. So those things are golden. All right, I'm not hearing lots of chat from everybody. Must be lunchtime. All right.
All right. Thanks, Angela.
See ya.
Thank
Bye.
you.